Hey, fifth and sixth hour. So I promised that I would post this on Friday and I did not. And for that, I am super sorry. There's no excuse for it. So I do apologize. So one of the biggest things with any of these problems is just to read it slowly and read it carefully. So Ms. Chang's class decided to use the Cool Teas company to make their t-shirts. The following equations represent the relationship between the cost, C. So I know the C is cost. So whatever is over here, whatever is in my Y position is going to be cost. And the number of t-shirts, which is N, my X is always going to be my N. I know that each t-shirt is going to cost $2 because that is my slope. That is my rate of change. That is my Y's over X's. Whatever you want to call it, that's my slope. And this is my B. Don't forget that B is always Y when X is 0. So if I were to put a 0 in here for N, 2 times 0 is 0. So what would my Y be? 20, because X is 0 or N is 0. So the class wants to buy 25 t-shirts. So I know automatically that I'm going to put 25, the number 25 in for N. So C equals 2 times 25 plus 20. So then I know that C equals 50 plus 20, and C equals 70. So B, on the other hand, is suppose the class has $80 to spend on t-shirts. Well, $80 is going to go in for the cost. So now I have 80 equal to my equation, 2N plus 20. And now I'm going to solve for N so that I can figure out, suppose a class has $80 to spend on t-shirts. Describe how you can use a table and a graph to find the number of t-shirts the class can buy. Well, first off, before I can do a table or a graph, I am going to solve for N so that I know what my X is. Over here, my X is 25 and my Y is 70. So I'm going to subtract 20 because the inverse operation of addition is subtraction. Now to get N by itself, I'm going to have to divide because 2 is right now being multiplied by N. And if I want to get rid of something, I have to use the inverse operation. So I'm going to divide by 2, leaving N by itself, divide by 2. So N is equal to 30. So looking back up here, N is always going to be my X and my cost is going to be my Y. So if I have N, my X is going to be 30, but my Y is going to be 80. So now answering the second part, describe how you can use a table and a graph to find the cost for 25 t-shirts. Describe how you can use a table and a graph to find the number of t-shirts in the class. Well, if I have 25 and 70, I have 30 and 80. Let's look at those numbers. Let's go up by 10. So this one's going to go up by 10, so 90. And this one's probably going to go up by what? 25 to 30, 32, 35. You don't have to necessarily use your words to explain to me that you know that this side is going to go up by 5 t-shirts, and that every time the price goes, the number of t-shirts goes up by 5, my price is going to go up by 10 because each t-shirt is $2. And 2 times 5 is 10. So there's your table. If you did not want to make a table, but you wanted to make a graph, because some of our brains work like that better, and I understand that, we're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to find 25. So right here and 70. So 25 and 70, we're going to put our mark right there. We're going to go 30 and 80, 35 and 90, and 40 and 100. So that's how you do it with a table, and that's how you do it with a graph. So now we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3, all it says is find the solution, the value of the variable for each equation. So 3a is y equals 3 times 10 plus 15. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is what's in the parentheses, because that's what my order of operations taught me. Order of operations taught me parentheses first. So 3 times 10 is 30 plus 15. Y is equal to 45. Number 4 tells me that my equation is y equals 5x minus 15. For right here, it says consider the equation y equals 5x minus 15. Find y, so I'm looking for y, if x equals 1. Well, if this is telling me that x is 1, all I'm doing is plugging 1 in for x. So now I have y equal to 5 times 1 minus 15. So I have y equals 5 times 1 is 5 minus 15. Now, if I have 5 minus 15, I have 5 until I get to 0. So I go 5 and I get to 0. Now I'm going to go 10, 15. So minus 5 minus 10. Y equals negative 10. Okay. Number 10. I think a lot of you are getting strung up on the words and the equations and the words and number sentences. So what I want you guys to really try focusing on doing is breaking it apart, breaking up the the word sentences. So Gilberto's grandfather gives him $5 for his birthday. He gives him $5. And then 50 cents for each math equation he answers correctly. So looking at that to try and find an equation, I know that y is going to equal something. So y equals something. Y is going to equal what Gilberto earns. So what does he earn? What's the first thing he earns? He earns $5 for his birthday. That is our flat rate. That is what y is going to be when x is 0. Okay? So that is our b. And this is our y. And this is going to be our slope and our x. So b plus, and then 50 cents for each math question he answers correctly. So then I'm going to add for 50 cents for each math problem. And you can use whatever letter you want. It does not matter. It's going to have the same value no matter how you do it. So write an equation that represents the amount of money that Gilberto receives during a school year. Explain what the variables and numbers mean. Well, y equals my y-intercept. 5 equals y when x is 0. 0.50 is my slope or rate of change. Because no matter how many questions he gets right, every question is going to go up by 50 cents. $5, that's not going to change. That is a solid, stand up, straight up number. 50 cents is my slope. That's how much it's going to change. It's going to go up 50 cents as it goes over 1. And then Q is my X. And that's number 10. Moving on to number 14. Number 14 says, solve each equation for X, then check your answers. Well, I have 14a here. That is 3x plus 5 equaling 20. Well, I want to get X by itself. So the easiest way to get rid of X, to get X by itself is to get rid of everything else. If I look at that without the variable, I have plus 5 equals 20. Well, if I have plus 5 on this side, I need to use the inverse operation to get rid of it, which is minus 5. So that gives me a 0. But what I do on one side, I have to do to the other, which gives me a 15. So now I have 3x equals 15. Well, this is telling me that 3 and x are being multiplied together. What is the inverse operation of multiplication? Division. So when I have a 3x, I'm going to divide by 3, and that gives me a 5. X equals 5. Does that make sense? Now, if I want to check my answer like the problem tells me to, I'm going to take my X, that was my answer, and I'm going to plug it in for the X in the problem. So now I have 3 times 5 plus 5 equals 20. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 5 equals 20. 15 plus 5 is 20, which equals 20. If this happens when you check your answer, you did it right. So the next problem that we did was number 17. Let me do 14D. I will do 14E. I'm going to write it down because you're not going to be able to see it. Okay, negative 3x minus 5 equals a negative 20. Negative 3x minus 5 equals negative 20. So I have a negative 3x and a negative 5. I want to get negative 3x by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 5 to each side. And since I am moving to the right, I have a negative 20. 5 closer to 0 is negative 15. Negative 3x equals negative 15. What do I have left? I want to get x by itself. So right now, x and negative 3 are being multiplied together. To get rid of that negative 3, I have to divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. And when I have a negative and a negative, they equal a positive. So I have positive x equals positive 5. Now, if I have an answer, I'm going to plug it back in for x. So I have negative 3 times 5 minus 5 equals negative 20. Well, I take this negative 3, which is a negative, times a positive, which equals a negative. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Minus 5 equals negative 20. When I have a negative and I subtract 5 from it, I'm going to go to the left and I'm going farther away from 0, which means that this is going to turn into negative 20 equal to negative 20. Okay, let's move on to 17. I have 3. This is where a lot of you start getting confused and frustrated. I get it. I do. But look at it one step at a time. Step 1. Step 1 is distribute the 3. So I'm going to do 3 times x equals 3x, and 3 times 2 is 6. Step 1, or step 2, sorry. I want to get 3x by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I just did up here and right here, and I'm going to use the inverse operation to get rid of this. 12 minus 6 is 6. So now I have 3x equal to 6. Right now, 3 is being multiplied by x, so I have to divide, which is the inverse operation of that, to get rid of 3 on the left. So I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So x equals 2. How am I going to check my answer? Well, I'm going to take that x, and I'm going to plug it in right there. So I have 3 times 2 plus 6 equals 12. What's 2 times 3? 6 plus 6 is equal to 12. Does 6 plus 6 equal 12? It does, which tells me that I did this part right. Okay, 18. Still, all we're doing is taking this, and we're adding to it. All we're doing is, without that, x plus 2, you would be able to do that. You wouldn't be intimidated by that, because you would say, oh, x plus 2, I subtract the 2 and make it 10, x equals 10. But that 3, for some reason, throws you completely off. Don't let it, because then we're going to come down here and we're going to do 5 minus 2 times x plus 1 equals 12. Okay, remember, this is one part. This is another part. That's another part. And that's another part. So what I'm going to do is step number 1. Distribute the negative 2. I'm going to distribute it. I'm going to pretend like none of that exists. And I'm just going to do negative 2 times x plus 1. Now I want to distribute negative 2x minus 1, because I have a positive and a negative and a negative always equal a negative. Now I can plug the rest of it back in. I can plug 5 in, and I can put 12. Step 2. I'm going to combine like terms. Over on this side, I have 2 numbers without a variable. So now I'm going to do 5 minus 1. So now I have 4 minus 2x equals 12. Next step, I'm going to isolate the negative 2x. So if I'm adding if I have a plus 4 over here, I'm going to subtract 4, and I'm going to subtract 4. So now I have negative 2x equaling 8. Now I'm going to isolate the x. I'm going to divide by negative 2. X is equal to negative 4. So that is the first video. I'm going to end the video here, and I'm going to give you guys a chance to go over those. I will post a second video going through the second half of the work. So pause it, use this for whatever you need to, and I will talk to you guys in a minute.